Hello, and welcome to an introduction to food safety from a marketing perspective, where your food safety regulatory landscape, types of food safety certification, and why it matters to your farm will be discussed. We will begin with the food safety regulatory landscape, which includes FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act. FSMA was signed into law in January of 2011, and it includes provisions requiring the agency to establish and enforce new preventive controls and food safety plans at some food processing facilities and farms, including numerous other oversight capabilities of both domestic and foreign feed companies. The goal of FSMA is to regulate fresh produce marketed in the United States to ensure a safe food supply. It shifts the focus from responding to contamination to preventing it. FSMA regulations cover the entire food supply chain, including processors, producers, shippers, handlers, and importers of produce sold in the United States. FSMA contains final rules with actions that must be taken to prevent contamination. We'll focus primarily on the produce safety rule, but if you would like to learn more about FSMA or the other types of final rules, please visit the link below, which is highlighted in green. The produce safety rule, more commonly known as the produce rule, consists of standards for the growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of produce for human consumption. The exemptions to this rule include commodities that are rarely consumed raw, such as sweet potatoes or zucchini squash, or processing activities that include a kill step. A good example of a kill step would be cooking a vegetable before consuming it, killing some of the harmful bacteria that may have existed on the vegetable. One might also be exempt from the produce safety rule due to the sales or size of one's operation. For example, if your average annual produce sales are less than $25,000, you are exempt. Or if your average annual produce sales are less than $50,000 and 50% of your food is sold directly to the end user, such as at farmers markets, restaurant, or retailers in the same state or within 275 miles of your farm, then you are qualified for exemption to the rule. Depending on the size of your farm's sales, you may have longer to implement the food safety rule or produce safety rule. For farms with average annual produce sales of more than $500,000 within the previous 3 years, the compliance dates for FSMA was January of 2018. For farms with average annual produce sales of more than $250,000 but no more than $500,000 within the previous 3 years, the compliance date begins in January of 2019. For farms with average annual produce sales of more than $25,000 but less than $250,000 within the previous 3 years, the compliance date begins in January of 2020. To learn more about the produce safety rule, please visit the link highlighted in green. If your farm is not required to adopt FSMA, you may still obtain voluntary food safety certification through third-party safety accreditation, such as GAP, which stands for Good Agricultural Practices. GAP is a voluntary third-party food safety audit that ensures fruits and vegetables are handled in the safest way possible. GAP is offered by the USDA. In an effort to bring voluntary food safety certification up to standards with FSMA, USDA offers a harmonized GAP. The harmonized GAP would have near the same level of food safety certification as FSMA, but is completely voluntary. Other types of GAP include the basic USDA GAP/Good Handling Practices, also known as GHP, and Group GAP. To learn more about the different types of GAP and how to obtain them, please visit the link highlighted in green, which will take you to the USDA's website, where you can learn and browse the different types of GAP listed on their page. There are many reasons to obtain GAP certification. One of the most important reasons being that certification and food safety practices are required to access certain markets, such as large grocery chains and the retail market. GAP/GHP certification is required by most markets, but some markets will be stricter than others and may require more intense food safety certification. The bigger the size of a market, the stricter the food safety regulations will be. A seller such as Walmart is going to have extremely strict regulations, but a local grocery store is likely to be more lenient and place more value on a relationship with a grower than on the grower's food safety practices. It is important to always check market requirements before you decide to obtain certification or expand your operations. It is also important to check in frequently with your buyers and talk to them about your food safety practices. Markets and buyers that do not currently require certification or that are not very strict may require certification or become stricter in the future. Consolidation of buyers may lead to stricter food safety requirements for producers, and some farmers markets in the country require GAP certification from its sellers. Some producers have already experienced this challenge. Food safety requirements often vary by region. To view the food code by regions in the United States, please visit the link below, highlighted in green. While GAP and other third-party food safety accreditation is completely voluntary, food safety certification still matters to your farm. Although it can be costly, there are programs such as the Group GAP, where you can obtain certification together with other farms and distribute the cost together that make it more affordable. Food safety practices reduce the risk of foodborne illnesses, which damage consumer trust in sales. According to the Center for Disease Control, roughly 48 million people get sick from foodborne illnesses in a year, and out of those 48 million, 128,000 are hospitalized and 3,000 die. Even if a foodborne illness may not be traced back to your farm, consumers will still be wary of your product, even after the illness has been taken care of. A good example would be of the 2018 E. coli outbreak in romaine lettuce. Even though romaine lettuce is now safe to consume, consumers are wary of buying the product due to stigma of the illness that still surrounds the lettuce. Sales have yet to recover as they decreased significantly during the outbreak. In the case that a foodborne illness was traced back to your farm, it would take a while to rebuild consumer trust with your company. Besides helping prevent the outbreak of a foodborne illness, food safety certification also opens market channels for a chance to grow sales. As previously mentioned, some markets are only accessible by food safety certification. If you plan to expand your sales to the wholesale market, you will still have to have food safety certification. As time goes on, food safety regulations will only grow stricter. It is good to be certified and keep up with certification because keeping up with food safety standards makes it easier to implement future food safety regulations such as FSMA. Farmers who previously acquired GAP certification and are later required to implement FSMA may not have as many problems implementing FSMA as those without certification. Be sure to keep records of your certification, if you have any, to help prevent foodborne illnesses being traced back to your farm. Remember, safer practices build consumer trust and better relationships with buyers. If you are GAP certified, your farm is featured on the USDA's website. This is a great free marketing tool. The website only lists farms that have some form of certification, so if your farm is not certified, it does not appear on the USDA's website. Potential buyers may visit the website to view growers who are certified in their area. To visit the list of certified farms, please visit the link below, highlighted in green. Just because you are not certified does not mean that you can't implement food safety practices on your farm. Listed below are a few food safety tips, but remember that these tips alone do not ensure the food safety of your farm. Frequently wash your farming tools and clean product surfaces. Get rid of all dirt and other remnants that may be left in between uses. Check for signs of animals on your farm. If you find signs of animals on your farm, especially near your produce, keep records of any activity and try to put up a fence or another object to keep the animals away. This will keep them from damaging or contaminating your product. Wash your hands and make sure that employees also maintain proper work hygiene. Attend food safety trainings. Even if you are not planning to be certified, these are still important. Minimize touching your product. The less your product is touched, the less risk of contamination there is. Keep records of everything. If there is not a written record to prove it, then it does not exist or did not happen. You must be able to provide written records for all of the food safety practices you implement on your farm. Foster a culture of record keeping. Because this can be a lot to keep up with, some farmers hire someone to keep up with these records for them. If you are a small farm, there are many online resources you might use to help instead. Try searching online for record-keeping templates. Do not be discouraged. Help is available. In light of this presentation, there are several important points to remember. FSMA is required by the FDA, and GAP is offered by the USDA. GAP certification is entirely voluntary, but it is required for most markets, such as the wholesale market and other retail markets. Be sure to check market requirements before expanding your operations. Keep records of everything, and keep up with food safety certification because it makes it easier for your farm in the long run. Good food safety practices matter, whether or not you are certified. You can be safe without being certified, but certification will open doors to markets you may not be able to access otherwise. Thank you for your time.